this is John Fidel, and you're watching GVTV News. So watch, and learn.
Thanks, John, and I'm Randy Hansen. In today's World News headlines, U.S. accuses Syria of stalling on chemical weapons deal. And report says Syrian authorities raised neighborhoods to punish civilians. And Thai protesters blockade buildings housing ballot papers ahead of election. And out of Iraq, more than 900 killed in January. And State Department report said it's in favor of the Keystone XL oil pipeline. And Shell drops plans to drill in the Arctic this year. Latin American, Caribbean leaders declare peace zone in the region. And U.S. to seek death penalty for Boston Marathon bombing suspect. And California Democratic Representative Henry Waxman to leave Congress after 4 decades. New York City Mayor de Blasio drops appeal of stop and frisk ruling. And former New York City Mayor Michael Bloomberg tapped for UN post. And protesters demand justice for slain transgender woman Islan Nettles and wage hike for federal contractors to exclude disabled workers. And a report says top GOP advisors helped Redskins football team with bid to keep name. And NATO 3 trial continues amid claims of police entrapment. And West Virginia official says citizens breathing formaldehyde due to chemical spill. And Scarlett Johansson leaves Oxfam post after SodaStream dispute. And migrating monarch butterfly population in Mexico drops to record low. GVTV News is broadcast on Grass Valley Television Division of Rural Counties Television Network, whose focus is on community involvement. We also air on NCTV. But before these stories, GVTV News would like to thank one of our underwriters who supports your only visual video news media in Nevada County. That's right, it's us, GVTV News. Today's accusing Syrian government of stalling on chemical weapons deal that averting a looming U.S. military strike last year. State Department spokesperson Jen Psaki joined with U.S. officials demanding Syria take immediate action and said, "Today we are 1 month past the December 31st completion date of the OPCW Executive Council that agreed upon the removal of the most dangerous chemicals, and just 6 days from the completion date of all required chemicals to be removed from Syria. And all this time, Syrian regime has moved less than 5% of the chemicals to the port." Renewed pressure comes as the Syrian government and opposition leaders wrap up peace talks in Geneva, with little progress made so far towards ending the 3-year conflict. A new report by Human Rights Watch finds Syrian authorities have unlawfully razed entire residential neighborhoods in order to punish civilians in the cities of Hama and Damascus. A Human Rights Watch researcher outlined the findings and said the Human Rights Watch report that was released with documents the Syrian government's intentional and systematic and unlawful demolition of 7 neighborhoods, 7 areas that were affected. We have used satellite imagery, witness statements, and videos to reach those conclusions. Scale of extent of demolitions is quite staggering. Thousands of families have lost their homes in these demolitions. And anti-government protesters in Thailand have formed blockades around buildings where ballot papers are being kept in a bid to prevent their distribution ahead of polls this Sunday. Opposition wants Prime Minister Yingluck Shinawatra to resign and be replaced by an unelected council. They are boycotting Sunday's election with Yingluck's party, which is expected to win. In Iraq, a group of suicide bombers and gunmen attacked a government building in Baghdad on Thursday, killing hostages and a number of people before security forces regained control. Reports on the precise death toll varied, with some tallies as high as 24. Attack comes in as the Iraqi army battles anti-government fighters in the Anbar province. Agence France Press reports that more than 900 people have died in violence in Iraq this month, more than 3 times the total for last January. And the State Department is reportedly set to release an environmental impact study that will favor construction of the Keystone XL oil pipeline. The report, expected this afternoon, could help determine if President Obama will approve the pipeline, which would carry tar sands oil from Canada to Texas. An earlier State Department report that found the pipeline would have little impact on the climate was radically discredited by environmental groups and federal agencies. Shell has abandoned its plan to drill for oil off the coast of Alaska for this year after a court ruling cast doubt on its leases in the Chukchi Sea. Last week, U.S. Court Appeals for the Ninth Circuit said the government had inadequately assessed the drilling potential environmental impact. On Thursday, Shell's CEO said the lack of clear path towards means that I am not prepared to commit further resources to drilling in Alaska in 2014. Shell had previously suspended its Arctic operations after a series of mishaps, including equipment failures and grounding of a drill ship. And Latin American and Caribbean leaders have wrapped their annual summit up as the regional grouping that excludes the United States and Canada. Community of Latin America and Caribbean states held its first gathering last year as a counterweight to forums that exclude Cuba. Cuban President Raul Castro touted the summit's accomplishments and said, "We've reached important agreements on significant issues such as announcements of a peace zone in the region and the rules and norms for guaranteeing an intra and extra regional cooperation could bring tangible benefits to the community." And the Justice Department has announced it will seek the death penalty for the Boston Marathon bombing suspect, Dr. Sarnaev. Executions at the federal level are relatively rare, but Attorney General Eric Holder, the thief, said in a statement the nature of the conduct at issue and the resultant harm compel their decision. Sarnaev is accused of plotting to attack with his older brother, Tamerlan, who later died in a firefight with the police. And Democratic Representative Henry Waxman of California has announced he will retire at the end of the session following 4 decades in the House of Representatives. Waxman played a lead role in shaping Obama's health care law and has spearheaded key legislation on the environment, consumer protection, and funding of HIV and AIDS treatment. Women's health activist Sandra Fluke, who became famous after she was barred from testifying at a hearing on contraceptive coverage, says she is strongly considering running for Waxman's seat. In New York City, newly elected Bill de Blasio has announced that the city will drop its appeal of a federal court ruling that found the New York City Police Department's stop and frisk tactics unconstitutional. De Blasio said the city will accept reforms ordered by Judge Shira Shendlin last August, including the appointment of a monitor to oversee changes. And he also said, "We're here today to turn the page of one of the most diverse problems in our city. We believe in this administration. I think this reflects the values of the police, the people of New York City broadly. We believe in one city where everyone rises together. We believe in respecting every New Yorker's rights, regardless of what neighborhood they live in or the color of their skin. And we believe in ending their overuse of stop and frisk that has unfairly targeted young African American and Latino men." New York City Mayor Bill de Blasio's predecessor, Michael Bloomberg, has reportedly been tapped to become UN Special Envoy for cities' climate change. Reuters reports UN Secretary General Ban Ki-moon could make the announcement as early as today. Or it was the other day, actually. A group of transgender women and their allies gathered outside New York City Police Department headquarters to demand justice for Islam Nettles. Nettles was a 21-year-old transgender woman of color who was taunted by anti-gay slurs and then beaten to death in Harlem late last August. A suspect was arrested on assault charges, but the case against him was later dismissed. So far, no one has been charged with the murder of the case. Protesters accused police of mishandling the investigation. Louisa Ashley Hunter, trans woman of color collective of Greater New York, said with Islam Nettles, she was beaten until she couldn't move no more outside the police station. She was in the crux of 3 different police stations in a gentrified neighborhood of Harlem where 10 different cameras are not working. This goes beyond just brutality and discrimination against trans folk. To support the safety of all New Yorkers, could be in the middle of Harlem and the cameras don't work. This could happen to anyone if it happened to a white woman, we would be standing out there right now in the freezing cold fighting for justice. 6 months later? That was the question. Minimum wage hike for federal contract workers unveiled by President Obama this week will exclude workers with disabilities. In these times, reports disability advocates were told Wednesday that Obama's executive order will not apply to disabled workers who are employed through a special program that allows them to be paid sub-minimum wages. In a letter urging Obama to reconsider, National Council of Disability wrote, "For workers with disability, equal rights, let alone a living wage, is still a dream deferred." And a new report has revealed that the role of high-profile Republican advisors in the bid for the Washington Redskins football team to keep their controversial name, Native Americans and their allies have launched a campaign to change the name, which is based on racial slur. But team owner Dan Snyder has vowed to keep it. On Thursday, Think Progress said it has obtained emails showing that team consulted with top Republican strategists about its public relations strategy, including former President George W. Bush, Press Secretary Ari Fleischer, and former Virginia Governor and Senator George Allen, and Republican pollster Frank Luntz. A trial is continuing in Illinois for 3 activists known as the NATO 3. Brian Jacob Church, Brent Betley, and Jared Chase traveled to Chicago for protests against the NATO summit in 2012. 2 undercover police officers infiltrated the activist community and were present when the defendants allegedly made Molotov cocktails. The 3 are now facing 175 years in prison if convicted on all accounts under the post-9/11 state anti-terrorism law, which is being invoked for the first time in their case. Supporters say police used aggressive tactics in entrapping the NATO 3. On Thursday, one of the police officers admitted that he volunteered to make Molotov cocktails with the activists, saying he did so in order to be included in their plans. An official of West Virginia has raised fresh concerns about the impact of the chemical spill that left 300,000 people without tap water for days. On Wednesday, the vice chair of the West Virginia Environmental Quality Board, Scott Simonton, told the state legislature panel water sampling had detected formaldehyde. He said, "I can guarantee that the citizens of this valley are, at least in some instances, breathing formaldehyde. If they're taking a hot shower, this stuff is breaking down the formaldehyde in the shower or in the water system, and they're inhaling it. The biggest risk from formaldehyde is cancers of the respiratory system." West Virginia's top health officials have disputed Simonton's claims, saying formaldehyde would only be produced by spilled chemical at very high temperatures. And actress Scarlett Johansson has left her post at Oxfam International following a dispute over her support of SodaStream, a company that operates in the settlement in the occupied West Bank. Johansson will appear in an ad for SodaStream during the Super Bowl this Sunday. Following public outcry over the ad campaign, Johansson left her post as ambassador for Oxfam. A spokesperson for the actress cited a fundamental difference of opinion with the group. Oxfam accepted her resignation, saying Oxfam believes that the business such as SodaStream that operates in settlements further the ongoing poverty and denial of rights of the Palestinian communities that we work to support. And the number of monarch butterflies who fly south to spend the winter in Mexico has dropped to its lowest level since records began 20 years ago. A new report finds butterflies cover less than 2 acres of forest in December compared to nearly 45 acres during their peak in the 90s. Researchers attribute the decline of the factors including deforestation, extreme weather from climate change, and the rise in genetically modified corn and soybean crops designed to resist Monsanto Roundup weed killer. Widespread dousing of the herbicides has destroyed milkweed and butterflies' food source. Experts fear monarchs' annual migration from Canada to United States to Mexico is at risk of disappearing entirely. And that's it for the World News today. Now another thanks to one of our underwriters who supports your only visual video news media in Nevada County. That's right, it's us. GVTV News.
Soundcheck Music Center, the Rock and Roll Connection. We have guitars, amps, drum equipment, sound accessories, lessons, and repairs. We are located at 671 Maltman Drive, Grass Valley. 530-272-7236, open 7 days a week.
No one needs anyone, they don't even just pretend. Jonah's in America. I'm afraid of Americans. I'm afraid of the world. I can't help it. I'm afraid I can't. I'm afraid of Americans. I'm afraid of the world.
That's right, it's time for the police blotter. Pictures in the blotter are not from these actual events, but used for visual aid only. These public records are obtained from daily logs issued from Nevada County law enforcement. Grass Valley Police Department on Tuesday, 7:03 a.m., caller from the 500 block of East Main Street reported finding a large amount of possible stolen property in at a transient camp. 8:41 a.m., caller from the 300 block of Buena Vista Street reported that a man who does not own a car was seen carrying a car battery. He could not be located. 10:01 a.m., a caller from 400 block of East Main Street reported a person just stole a woman's clothing. Man was arrested on suspicion of second-degree burglary. And 1:36 p.m., a caller from 300 block of West Main Street reported damage to a glass window. And 2:22 p.m., a caller from the 2000 block of Nevada City Highway reported shoplifting. And 2:40 p.m., a caller from the business in 1900 block of Nevada City Highway reported receiving counterfeit money. And 2:45 p.m., a caller from 100 block of Hughes Road reported woman living in a vehicle with numerous cats and dogs. And 2:52 p.m., a caller from 500 block of Ivy Street reported theft of vehicle registration sticker. 4:55 p.m., a caller reported a person with a bag of marijuana entered the residence. And 7:34 p.m., a caller from 200 block of Rockwood Drive reported a possible bobcat in a tree. Nothing was located. 7:54 p.m., a caller from 100 block of Glenwood Avenue reported being a virtual fighter who has killed multiple people through God. And 8 p.m., a caller from 100 block of Dorsey Drive reported a physical fight with multiple men involved. It was found to have been verbal only. 8:12 p.m., a caller from 100 block of West McKnight Way reported shoplifter in custody who was cited and released. And at 11:14 p.m., a caller from 300 block of Hughes Road reported a strange noise coming from the basement, then called back to report the noise was a restraining order. 11:31 p.m., a caller from 100 block of East Main Street reported a drunken man urinated in front of a bar and threw an ashtray before leaving. He was admonished against trespassing and given a ride home. And Wednesday, 12:01 a.m., a caller from 200 block of Green Mountain Loop reported person with a flashlight going through a car wash. A man was arrested on outstanding warrants and on suspicion of carrying a concealed knife. In Nevada County Sheriff's Office on Tuesday, 8:37 a.m., a caller from 18,000 block of Pinnacle Lane reported possible fraud or identity theft. 9:31 p.m., caller from 11,000 block of School Street reported theft of a camera and precious stones from a backpack stored in an unlocked truck. Items were found. And 10:05 a.m., a caller from East Bennett Street reported several transient camps. 10:48 a.m., caller from Guy Blue and Red Dog Roads reported a vehicle had been set on fire in the woods. It was found to have been stolen out of Placer County. And 11:45 a.m., a caller from 15,000 block of Little Valley Road reported a man tried to get in a shed and was squatting near a neighbor's motorcycle, then fled. He could not be located. Jocko's a little upset today. 12:05 p.m., a man from 14,000 block of Bettler Road reported a neighbor was trespassing and cutting trees. And 3:06 p.m., a caller from 25,000 block of Table Meadow Drive reported a brush fire. 3:14 p.m., a caller from 13,000 block of Ridge Road reported burglary to a garage. And at 5:48 p.m., a PG&E contractor reported being confronted in the 13,000 block of Rough and Ready Highway by a man who put a dent in the caller's vehicle with his knee. At 6:18 p.m., caller from 19,000 block of Wildflower Drive reported a woman hit a 15-year-old girl who was found to be mutual combat. At 7:16 p.m., caller from 11,000 block of Oracle Lane reported a residential burglary with various items stolen. At 7:51 p.m., caller from 14,000 block of Highway 49 reported a tree on fire. At 9:57 p.m., a man from Highway 20 and Conservation Road reported being approached by a man with a pistol who tried to open his vehicle door. In Nevada City Police Department on Tuesday, 8:54 a.m., a caller from Railroad Avenue reported a large group of campers who were moving on. At 9:58 a.m., a caller from Zion Street reported a boy with a rifle walking down the street. No one was located. And that's it for the blotter today. Now another thanks to one of our underwriters who supports your only visual video news media. That's right, it's us, GVTV News. Christopher's Old World Deli and Catering Company has brought its delicious food and service downtown Grass Valley. Like desserts? They got 'em. You like international style lunches? They got 'em. Christopher's Deli and Catering for parties, get-togethers, weddings, or whatever. Open 7 days a week. In today's local news headlines, guns, drugs found on probation search, and Grass Valley physician indicted by feds for illegal distribution of oxycodone. In a story written by Nevada City man who was back in county jail for the 4th time in recent months after a probation search reportedly uncovered drugs and a gun at his residence, Nevada County Sheriff's deputies went to the residence of Samuel Edward Adams at 11,000 block of Snowline Drive Road at about 12:30 p.m. Thursday, said Sheriff Keith Royal. Deputies found Adams standing next to a truck in the garage, adding that Adams denied having any contraband but admitted to having a gun. A Kimber 9mm semi-automatic pistol as well as a magazine with rounds was reportedly recovered. During the search of the residence, deputies reportedly recovered a syringe loaded with suspected methamphetamine, 2.5 grams of meth, a scale, multiple syringes, and pipes. They also located a bottle of Patron vodka, Royal said. Adams, 29, was arrested on suspicion of possession of controlled substance and drug paraphernalia, committing a felony while on bail, being a felon in possession of a firearm, violating probation, and being under the influence of a controlled substance. He was booked and released on a $22,750 bail. A woman at the residence, identified as Odessa Shea Spear, 19, was arrested on suspicion of possessing drug paraphernalia, being under the influence of a controlled substance, and booked and released on a $2,000 bail. Adams was arrested in early January after a traffic stop reportedly uncovered a methamphetamine pipe and a baggie with suspected meth and several hypodermic needles, one of which was loaded with fluid that reportedly tested positive for meth. In early November, Adams was arrested twice, once for allegedly burglarizing his ex-girlfriend's residence, and then after deputies reportedly found methamphetamine and cocaine in Adams' garage, a loaded pistol in his vehicle, as well as hallucinogenic mushrooms and meth. He's been charged with possession of a controlled substance, trespassing, possessing a gun with the serial number removed, and obliteration of the serial number in the alleged break-in, and with the possession of a controlled substance and drug paraphernalia in the second arrest, and is set to enter pleas in those cases in Nevada County Superior Court on February 6th. An internist with offices in Grass Valley and Yuba City was indicted Thursday by the federal grand jury for running an illegal prescription practice. Nicholas Capos Jr., 63 years old of Granite Bay, was charged with 1 count of conspiracy to distribute, dispense, and possess with intent to distribute oxycodone and 5 counts of illegal distribution and dispensation of oxycodone. Capos participated in a conspiracy to distribute the drug oxycodone, said Lauren Horwood, the U.S. Attorney's out of the U.S. Attorney's Office. He was also charged with distribution suspension of oxycodone outside the usual course of professional medical practice and without legitimate medical purposes. Indictment alleges that he illegally dispensed 1,590 30-milligram oxycodone pills in the summer of 2012. In this case, the government alleges that a licensed physician dispensed these powerful and deadly painkillers without legitimate medical purpose. The law provides a consequence for people who prescribe narcotics outside the scope of legitimate medicine. Federal grand jury indictment was not available at press time. However, the indictment stemmed from a fully investigated complaint against Capos by the Medical Board of California, which was referred to the Attorney General's office for prosecution in August 2013. Accusations alleged that Capos was guilty of multiple causes of discipline in cases involving 11 patients, one of whom was actually an undercover operative. In 9 of the cases, Capos was reportedly guilty of gross negligence, prescribing without an appropriate prior exam, excessive prescribing, and keeping inaccurate medical records. In 2 of the cases, he reportedly was guilty of repeated negligence. Most of the cases deal with office visits in 2012. In a typical instance, Capos reportedly saw a patient who had been prescribed heavily for pain medication, conducting normal physical exams but refilling and increasing pain prescriptions. One patient prescribed in 2012 peaked to 10 times the dose the patient had been receiving 3 years previously. 4,600 tablets a month of hydrocodone, oxycodone, oxymorphone, and methadone, the accusation alleged. One patient with a history of drug abuse and non-compliance reportedly was prescribed excessive narcotics, even though there was notes in her chart indicating that a local and regional pharmacy were refusing to fill her prescriptions due to the concerns about her diagnosis and the amounts of narcotics prescribed. Capos reportedly would make minimal notes for visits and fail to perform appropriate diagnostic exams. In one case, Capos reportedly failed to properly evaluate the cardiac care of an 85-year-old man with an atrial fibrillation. In another case, Capos reportedly was negligent in the care of a patient who eventually died of sickle cell anemia. According to the accusations by the state medical board, an undercover operative visiting Capos for the cardiovascular exam, telling him she had been referred due to abnormal cardiac test at an urgent care center. Capos reportedly performed a full physical exam, which was reported to be totally normal. The undercover operative then requested pain pills, even though she told Capos she could not remember where the pain was. He subsequently prescribed Vicodin. On her follow-up visit, the undercover operative told Capos and Vicodin made her nauseous and she wanted something nicer and stronger. Capos reportedly prescribed for her Ambien, Percocet, oxycodone, and a cough syrup with codeine. Federal case against Capos is the product of an investigation by the Drug Enforcement Administration, California Medical Board, and the California Attorney General's Bureau of Medical Fraud and Elderly Abuse. Assistant U.S. Attorney Paul Hemasath is prosecuting the case. And that's it today.